Oh, new PS5 Pro's here. I'm gonna need a new TV for that. Yeah, that'll work. So PlayStation 5 Pro is finally here, but it's only as good as the TV that it's on. So I made a video like this actually back in January for the PS5, but now with the PS5 Pro kind of out now, I want to kind of update these recommendations, because TVs have changed too, for the best types of TVs for your next gen console. And this video is gonna cover everything, from sort of budget entry-level sets that still offer an amazing image, like all the way up to ultra premium, stupid expensive sets. I'll talk about the price a little bit later on some of those. Also, all the TVs I mentioned in these videos are TVs that like I've seen, I've looked at. None of the TVs in here are sponsored at all. This is just my genuine opinions on these sets that I think will look best for kind of every budget. When it comes to TVs, more expensive doesn't always mean better, especially when it comes to gaming. Some TVs take advantage of very specific features of the PS5 Pro and give you sort of more bang for your buck. So let's go over the TVs that I've tested over the course of the year, and it's been a lot, and see if we can find the best TV for your budget for that shiny, or I guess matte, or maybe you got the 30th anniversary version, PS5 Pro, or even a new Xbox Series X. So keep in mind that TV prices are obviously changing like all the time. Any price quoted like now are the prices as of filming, but you know, every 3 seconds TV prices move. So every year, all the headlines seem to go to like the newest OLED, and those are obviously really good technology. But the one tech that continues to surprise every single year that I think goes under the radar is LED and QLED tech. And every time I think that that tech is gonna get phased out, they get cheaper, they get brighter, and sort of high-end tech from a few years ago start to show up in these generally budget sets. So out of the like many LEDs and QLED TVs that I tested this year, there are a few that really stood out. So the 2024 TCL Q6 offers a really good SDR picture, like right out of the box, with pretty decent color depth. It does suffer, in all fairness, a little bit in brightness with HDR, but the big reason it's on this list, it's got VRR. So it can display up to 120 frames per second. So if you are primarily playing in a darker room, this is a really good budget-friendly option. If you want something with a little more brightness and punch, but like a slightly higher price, you might not think of them, but the Hisense U7H is really good. VRR up to 120 Hertz as well, auto low latency mode, and both the SDR and HDR are brighter on the set. But if you're looking for the best in this category, I think you gotta go with the LG QNED 85. It's one of LG's latest QLED TVs. While this TV does definitely need a little more picture tuning out of the box to get the best picture, the brightness of the set alone is kind of enough of a reason to really consider it. You've got a lot of local dimming zones, you have great contrast, HDR looks incredible, and also has all the stuff I mentioned before, the gaming features are here as well. Not only all that, but you also get LG's Game Optimizer, which I think is still the best gaming menu interface of any brand out there. And of the QLED and LED TVs that I've seen this year, I think the LG QNED 85 is really the best value for your TV dollar, whether it's for PS5, PS5 Pro, Xbox Series X, really any type of gaming. It is a killer TV. And all those TVs that I mentioned are incredible. The PS5 Pro can do 8K gaming. And if that is important to you, there's really one TV to recommend. That is a very long named Samsung QN900D 8K QLED LED TV. I don't know why they make these names so long. Options for 8K TVs are still like very sparse and generally super expensive, but if 8K is what you want from your PS5 Pro, or that's the reason that you got the PS5 Pro, then this set from Samsung is really great, whether you're getting it for gaming or not. It is insanely bright. Color depth is on par with most OLEDs, which is a huge compliment. Contrast looks amazing. Supports 60 Hertz at 8K and 240 Hertz at 4K. So I guess bear that limitation in mind. But granted, the PS5 Pro won't display over 120. But if you're also like a PC gamer, want to take advantage of 240 Hertz, then this set is going to be for you. But bear in mind, there are some caveats for LED and QLED TVs. If you sit too far to the side, the picture can get a little bit washed out. The blacks aren't going to be perfectly black, and there'll be some blooming at high contrast areas. things like that, typical kind of LED issues. But for most people, they aren't going to think about those things at all or think they're any sort of big deal. And more importantly, a lot of those old traditional issues with LED TVs aren't here anymore. They've gotten a lot better. So while they do exist, like if they were like this big a deal a few years ago, now they're like that big a deal. So also the sets I mentioned all support 120 Hertz, but not every LED or QLED TV will. So make sure you're checking whether it supports 60 or 120, if that's something that's important to you. I think with the PS5 Pro, kind of the one big thing that it does is it blends up performance and fidelity modes for most games. So while you're free to like grab a 60 Hertz set if you want, I think it's probably worth the extra effort and dollar to get one that supports 120 Hertz. Overall, I think QLED and LED TVs are still like absolutely worth checking out as they continue to get better and better every year. And they're getting pretty much all the gaming features that were previously sort of just for the high-end sets a few years ago. Sorry, Stevie, could we cut for a second? My nose is like running like crazy. Allergies are nuts. It's like super dusty here. I wish there was something that we had that could like take care of like all this dust and like pet hair. Actually, there is, thanks to this video's robotic sponsor, the Shark Power Detect 2-in-1 robot vacuum and mop with never touch base. So you might be thinking to yourself, Shark, like, I know them. They're not the things I'm scared of in the ocean. They are actually the #1 vacuum brand in America. And this thing, if you could like have a checklist of things you would want a robot vacuum to do, it does it, and it does it really well. My favorite thing is I don't have to really worry about it for like a month. This thing can go out of the base, it can clean everything around me, then it can go back, it can empty the dustbin, and I'm good to go. What if I want them to mop it? It'll do that too. Not only that, when it's done, it'll take that dirty water back to the dock, flush it, refill the water tank, clean and then dry the mop pad for you. Kind of what's making all this happen, I like to call it the 3 nevers. Never stuck, never touch, and never miss. Never stuck technology. That means you've seen those robot vacuums get stuck. It's like a thing in a corner that can't get over a threshold. Not gonna happen here. It can actually lift itself over thresholds and avoid objects to get stuck. The base traps dust and allergens and keeps them inside. There's also odor neutralizer technology guards against sort of bad smells. And if you've got dogs or cats, you know what I'm talking about. Second never is never miss technology. You got 5 deep cleaning technologies and ensuring your house, no matter how gross it might be, will get thoroughly cleaned. And the last never is the never touch base. With the base and the robot, they talk to each other and do everything pretty much for you. You could set schedules, clean on demand, it'll map your house, you can target clean. Inside the box, you're gonna get your Power Detect robot, the Never Touch Pro base, you're gonna get an odor neutralizing technology cartridge, 3 antimicrobial mopping pads, 2 side brushes, 1 12-ounce bottle of Shark's multi-surface cleaner. There's a lot of robot vacuum brands out there. But if you want to compare feature for feature versus the other brands, I think you'll come out really impressed with what Shark has to offer here. If you want to learn more, pick it up for yourself. Link will be down below. All right, so let's take a step sort of up a little bit and get some price and technology, and talk about a mini LED. Regardless of like what acronym the brand uses, the tech is more or less going to be the same. So mini LEDs, they have a really wide range of prices. Some are pretty affordable, and some can also be like crazy expensive. But generally, I think you get a lot more features for the price. So it's taking, if you don't know about mini LED, it's taking the technology of LED TVs, kind of shrinking those rear panel LEDs into obviously mini LEDs. So what that translates to is not only a brighter image, but image with a lot more local dimming zones. This is gonna give you things like less blooming around bright objects on a dark background, and I think do a much better job representing blacks as extremely dark versions of gray. So much so that I think most of the time you won't even notice that they're gray, and your brain will just think that they're blacks. And if you calibrate it right, you can get the blacks to be really close to OLED. Also recently, companies have been putting quantum dot layers over their mini LED panels. And this takes that brightness and color and detail up another level, which I think is where the sweet spot for mini LEDs really is. So if you see anything that's like a QD before any technology, they're just putting that quantum dot layer on top of it. And all of this means that you can watch movies, shows, and game in a brighter room without sort of getting the picture having to be washed out. So with these sets, you're also getting higher grade features too. You can almost guarantee they'll be capable of 120 Hertz with multiple 4K HDMI 2.1 ports, game optimizers to help you reduce latency, and also turn on things like VRR, give you better HDR color representation, generally better contrast ratios and depth in the image. So like I mentioned, I watch and test a lot of TVs throughout the year. It's one of the best parts of my job. In fact, most of them this year have been mini LED TVs. But out of all the sets I've seen, I think the Sony X95L is still one of the best mini LED sets this year. And a typical complaint that I think a lot of people have with mini LEDs is that they're actually too bright for most rooms, especially for gaming. You typically have to go pretty deep into the settings to fine tune the picture, and with enough tweaks, I think some mini LEDs are really challenging like OLED sets. But the Sony X95L, besides just needing to turn down the brightness a tad, looked almost perfect out of the box. And I see people argue that the Sony Bravia 9 beats the X95L slightly, and it's got an insanely bright picture. I personally haven't tested it, so I can't vouch for it. People tend to love it though. I'm sure it's a great set, but again, I haven't seen it with my own eyes. But tons of highly respected TV experts all unanimously rave about the Bravia 9, so honorable mention for that here. The price of mini LEDs can still also get expensive. Depending on the brand and time of year, those prices are really starting to come down. I've been saying for a while that I think mini LEDs are the TV tech that most people should get. The combination of amazing picture quality, high levels of brightness, great contrast, insane color depth, and high-end gaming features always make mini LED a really solid choice for everyone, especially gamers. All right, so now this is where I'm gonna kind of get into the higher end of the TV tech landscape with a crazy scope of prices. Some mid-range level, others in that soul-sucking $25,000 plus range. Let's talk about the final boss of TV tech, OLED and QD-OLED TVs. And with those premium price tags, you expect technology inside those TVs to be the best. And I generally think that's true. With it being OLED, you get perfect blacks, the pixels are off. You get a perfect contrast ratio with almost no perceivable blooming at all. A bright, vibrant image that elevates the viewing experience of pretty much anything you're watching, whether it's a movie, show, or of course, hooking up your PS5 Pro to it. And now just because you want the best TV tech does not always mean you gotta spend the most money. LG offers some really good mid-range price options like the B4 and C4 TVs. Both will offer those really high-end gaming features you need for the PS5 Pro. Main difference being kind of overall brightness. The C4 is like slightly brighter than the B4, but unless you're gaming in a super bright room with a lot of windows, I think the B4 is gonna be bright enough for most people. You also have more premium options if you want, like LG's G4, their newest flagship. I spent a lot of time with that set, and it holds a special place like in my heart. At home, I have an LG G2, and I love that set. I'm gonna recommend sort of the latest G series from LG all day, which now is a G4. But another set that's equally as good is the Samsung S95D. So you get a bit more color depth with the Samsung and a bit more brightness with the LG. So whichever is more important to you is probably the way to go. Really, if you get either of those sets, no matter like which one, I think you're gonna get one of the best TVs on the market. But if you want the actual best TV that makes zero compromises, then you're going to want a QD-OLED set. And this takes everything from OLED tech and expands on it a little bit. They're typically brighter than regular OLEDs. They have a wider color gamut, so colors are always more true to life, especially with HDR gaming, and their gaming features are sitting a step above the rest. And the best example of this right now is the Samsung S90D QD-OLED. Not to be confused with the Samsung S95D OLED, it's a mouthful, has a native 144 Hz refresh rate, which is insane. It also has G-Sync, FreeSync, VRR, some of the lowest input lag that I've ever seen on a TV. On top of all of that, it's actually somewhat affordable, especially for what you're getting. The price of QD-OLEDs have generally started to come way down, but the S90D is a screaming good price for what it offers. But if you don't care about any of that and you are like swimming in your own like Scrooge McDuck style money pool, I do have like the ultimate gaming experience for you. It's this guy right here. This behemoth is the 98-inch LG M3 OLED $25,000 wireless TV. So this is a 98-inch version. This is insanely large. There are smaller, more affordable options sort of in their M series, and their M is sort of the wireless series. You don't have to worry about a mess of wires behind your TV. It's an OLED display. Everything is plugged into their Zero Connect box, and the HDMI signal is transmitted wirelessly to that TV. I initially thought when I tested this, there's gonna be some really noticeable lag with gaming. I was really surprised by how good it was. I could detect no perceivable lag at all while playing any game. Really, it worked great. Now to be fair, LG does offer smaller sizes of this model that are still expensive, but certainly more reasonably priced than $25,000. I only mentioned this set as an example for sort of future TV technologies kind of to come. I previously made a video about all these future TV technologies, so if you want sort of a bit more in-depth look at it, I'll put a link to that video in the description. But there are some really exciting things on the horizon for TVs, all of which will sort of benefit sort of your gaming experience like really directly. All right, so you've got things like FOLED, PHOLED, next evolution of OLED technology, micro LED, the pinnacle of LED tech, even nano LED, the future of flexible panel technology. All of these things are coming and will sort of ultimately elevate anything that you watch or play on these sets. And some of the future tech is here, like the wireless transmission TVs, while the price tags for new sets are crazy high to start. Eventually, these two will become more affordable if you are patient enough. Yeah. So, but regardless of like what you decide to get, I'm kind of at a point with TV technology that almost every TV is like some version of good right now, especially in 2024, 2025. Close your eyes and point, and you land on something that you'll be happy with. But if you're looking for a set to get the best bang out of your new PS5 Pro buck or Xbox Series X or PS5, hopefully something in this video helped you make the right decision. There's a lot of TVs for every single budget. And if you're trying to prioritize what's important for gaming, I'd focus on refresh rate and brightness. And again, all the TVs I talked about and videos I made on them will be in the description down below. Happy gaming.